All right, let's just jump right in. Welcome to this explainer. I am so excited to guide you through this material today. If you're prepping for your teaching certification, you've probably stared at those super dense lists of competencies and thought, okay, but what does this actually look like when I'm standing in front of 25 energetic kids? It's stressful, I know. But today, we're taking Teaching Competency 002E, Music and Society, right off the page and bringing it to life. We're going to look at exactly what you need to know, why it matters, and how you'll actually use it to help your future students. So, I want you to picture a scenario. Imagine you're in your future classroom. You've planned what you think is this absolutely fantastic lesson. You press play on a piece of historical music. But as you look around the room, your students are tapping your pencils, maybe staring out the window, or just treating it as background noise. They're just consuming it as passive entertainment. So here's your first big instructional challenge. Is this just another song? How do you teach them that what they're hearing is way more than just a catchy tune or some dusty relic from the past? How do you actually make them care? Well, you have to guide them to realize that what they're listening to actually holds the history, the beliefs, and the traditions of an entire community. As their teacher, your job is to change their lens. You want to shift them from just hearing notes and rhythms to actively listening to a narrative, because music tells the story of a people, a community, or a specific historical period. When students finally get this, a song isn't just sound anymore. It becomes a primary source document. It becomes a window into how people lived, what they valued, and what they struggled with. You're literally teaching them how to decode the human experience through sound. And that brings us to the official standard for Competency 002E, which clearly moves music way beyond just notes on a page. The competency states that a teacher demonstrates an understanding of the purposes and roles of music in society and how music can reflect elements of a specific society or heritage. Now, this is exactly what the exam will test you on, but honestly, more importantly, it's the absolute foundation of your future lesson plans. Notice those keywords in there: purposes, roles, reflect, society, and heritage. The standard is explicitly asking you to connect the artistic expression directly to its societal context. This perfectly illustrates the big instructional shift you'll be making in your classroom. You see, your students will naturally arrive treating music purely as entertainment. I mean, that's how most of them interact with media when they first walk through your door, right? So your goal as an educator is to build a bridge from that starting point over to understanding music as cultural heritage. You're moving students from passively consuming media to actively analyzing a society's heritage. You want them to realize that, sure, a song might be super fun to listen to, but its true weight lies in what it reflects about the people who made it. Now, to build that bridge effectively, we absolutely have to master the academic language. These aren't just buzzwords to memorize for a test. These are the actual tools you'll use to frame your questions and design your classroom activities. So let's look at 3 critical terms from the source material that you'll need to know inside and out. First up is cultural identity. The source defines this as the characteristics, traditions, and beliefs that help define a group of people. I like to think of cultural identity as the unique fingerprint of a community, expressed directly through their music. When you teach a song, you're helping students uncover that fingerprint. You're showing them how the instruments chosen, say a lively, fast-paced fiddle versus a slow, resonant drum, are totally deliberate reflections of who those people are and what they believe. Next is heritage, which is defined as cultural traditions passed from generation to generation. This is the crucial concept of cultural survival across time. Just imagine teaching a traditional folk song. You're sharing something that survived hundreds of years of history, passed directly from parent to child. Helping your students grasp the concept of heritage means helping them see music as a living time capsule. It connects the past directly to their present moment, right there in your classroom. And finally, we have social function. This is the purpose music serves within a community or society. Basically, this term asks us to consider the why. Why was this music created in the first place? Was it to coordinate labor during a long harvest? Was it to express deep mourning at a funeral? Maybe it was for a sacred religious ceremony or a loud political protest. Music just isn't created in a vacuum. By teaching your kids to look for the social function, you are teaching them critical thinking skills that apply way beyond your specific subject area. Okay, so it's one thing to know the definitions of heritage and social function for a multiple choice test, but it is entirely another to design a learning experience around them. So let's look at a highly effective classroom application provided in our source material, the study of American spirituals. This is really where theory meets practice. Imagine guiding your class through these 3 instructional steps. Step 1, examine American spirituals. You'd start by actually listening to the music together, grounding the listen in the primary source. Step 2, discuss historical context. You provide the background, explaining the realities of the time. This is where you might totally surprise them by revealing that some spirituals contained fitting codes and map directions for the Underground Railroad. Suddenly, no way, it's not just a song anymore, it's a tool for survival. And step 3, analyze how the music reflects the creator's experiences and emotions. This is where the real magic happens. You aren't just telling them facts, you're facilitating a discussion where they connect the deep, often painful emotions of the people who created the music to the historical reality they were actually living through. I really want you to put yourself in the teacher's shoes for a second here. What questions would you ask your students to connect the music to the history? If you're standing at the front of the room, you can't just give them the answers, right? So how do you prompt them? Maybe you ask, hey, why do you think the tempo of this song is so slow? Or what do these lyrics actually tell us about what the singers were hoping for? Think about how you might scaffold these questions so every single learner, regardless of their musical background or academic level, can actively participate in the discovery. You really want to formulate questions that guide your diverse students to see that this music is telling a living story. All right, let's lock in what you absolutely need to take away from this explainer, both for your upcoming exam and for your long-term career as an educator. There are 2 foundational truths here. Number 1, music reflects culture and history. It is literally a mirror held up to society. And number 2, music serves social, cultural, and personal purposes. It always has a function beyond mere entertainment. If you base your instructional decisions on these 2 pillars, you're not only going to master Competency 002E, but you're going to create incredibly rich, meaningful lessons for your students. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to carry into your teaching journey. How will your future students hear the world differently because of your teaching? Seriously, think about it. When you bring this competency to life in your classroom, you're doing something profound. You aren't just teaching songs. You're teaching students how to listen to the story of humanity. You're empowering them to recognize cultural identity, honor heritage, and understand social function. Keep that in mind as you prep for your exam and step into your very own classroom. You are going to be a fantastic teacher. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep that enthusiasm for learning alive.